They told you pain is something to avoid, that it's a sign of weakness, failure, or a life gone wrong, that if you're hurting, something must be broken, maybe even you. And so you spend years running from it, covering it up with noise, distractions, accomplishments, relationships, dopamine fixes, whatever numbs the sting. But what no one ever teaches you is that pain is not the end of something, it's the beginning. Pain is not a signal to retreat, but a doorway, a threshold. The invitation you didn't know you were waiting for. And if you look closely enough, you'll see it's always been there. Silent, patient, watching, waiting for the moment you're finally ready to stop running and turn inward. Most people never do. Most people keep dodging the discomfort, blaming others, numbing the ache, pretending to be okay until one day they don't even recognize who they are anymore. But maybe you're different. Maybe the weight you've been carrying, the ache in your chest, the heaviness that won't go away, maybe that's not something to fix, but something to feel. Because beneath that ache lives a truth so raw, so real, it terrifies the part of you that just wants to stay safe. The truth is this: the pain you feel is a map. It's pointing somewhere, not away from yourself, but toward the exact place where your soul has been hiding. And that's why pain hurts so much. It's not just loss or fear or heartbreak. It's the echo of a version of you that never got to be born, a life unlived, a voice silenced, a dream postponed so long it forgot how to speak. You're not just grieving the past, you're grieving a future that could have been, the one you were too afraid to claim. And now that pain, this pain, is trying to wake you up, not to punish you, not to ruin your peace, but to remind you that there is more. That the life you're living now might be functional, acceptable, maybe even impressive from the outside, but it's not the life you were meant to live. You know it. That restlessness in your chest, the numbness in your daily routine, the invisible wall between you and joy, those are signals, not of failure, but of potential, of something sacred trying to come through. And maybe, just maybe, the parts of you you've been trying to silence are the very ones holding the key to something deeper. Because once you stop pushing pain away and begin to understand why it came, everything starts to shift, slowly, imperceptibly at first, like the ground warming beneath your feet before a long-awaited spring. You grow up learning to avoid pain. Touch the hot stove, you get burned. Cry in public, you're told to be strong. Fail at something, and suddenly the silence in the room feels louder than any scream. Little by little, you begin to believe pain is a signal to stop, to retreat, to hide. You associate it with weakness, shame, maybe even punishment. But what no one ever tells you is that pain is also a compass. A strange, unwanted guide pointing directly toward the parts of yourself that are still raw, still unfinished, still waiting to become. The discomfort you feel in your body when you've betrayed yourself, the ache in your chest when a dream is left unfulfilled, the sting of rejection when you finally dared to be seen, these aren't random misfortunes. They are markers. Something inside you is trying to speak. And the more you ignore it, the louder it gets. We tend to imagine personal growth as a light-filled, uplifting journey. Vision boards, morning routines, motivational quotes neatly pinned onto perfect days. But real growth, transformative, identity-shaping growth, rarely looks like that. Real growth is awkward. It's messy. It often begins at rock bottom, when you're cracked open by something you didn't think you could survive. It starts in the moments when your mask shatters and you're forced to confront the parts of you that no one claps for. One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, Carl Jung once said, but by making the darkness conscious. Pain makes the darkness conscious. It throws light on the corners of your soul that you've kept locked away for years. And once you see them, you can't unsee. That's where everything begins to shift. Think of the people who truly move you, the ones whose presence feels alive with depth, insight, empathy. Almost always their presence is forged through fire, not because they sought pain, but because they didn't run from it. Because at some point they stopped asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and started asking, "What is this trying to show me?" That shift in questioning is a doorway. It doesn't make the suffering vanish, but it gives it shape. It gives it direction. And slowly it stops being just pain. It starts to become process. If you've ever felt lost, like you're stuck in a loop of invisible struggle while everyone else seems to be moving forward, that's not failure. That's you standing at the threshold. Pain often masquerades as stagnation. You feel like nothing's happening, but what's really happening is deeper than anything visible. Your old patterns are dying. Your previous identity is loosening its grip. And what's growing underneath is something you don't yet have language for. It's slow. It's quiet. It's sacred. There is a kind of pain that sharpens you. A kind that strips away your illusions, your performative strength, your need for control. At first, it feels like destruction, but it's actually excavation. It's revealing the solid ground beneath all your masks. And the irony is, the more you try to numb it, through distractions, overwork, substances, denial, the more you delay what was always meant to awaken you. We think strength is about not feeling, but true strength is about feeling fully and still choosing to move. To stay open, to remain human in the midst of the fire. When you're in that space, torn between who you were and who you're becoming, it's tempting to romanticize numbness, to wish for the comfort of apathy, the dullness of routine, the escape of pretending. But your pain is a message, not a malfunction. The discomfort you feel is often the most honest thing in the room. It's the part of you that refuses to settle, that remembers you were meant for something more aligned, more whole, more real. We're conditioned to believe that healing looks like getting back to normal. But what if normal was the problem? What if the pain you feel isn't about returning to the old version of yourself, but about shedding everything that kept you from becoming who you really are? Pain often demands sacrifice, not of joy or hope, but of illusion. It asks you to let go of narratives that kept you safe but small. It forces you to examine the beliefs that kept you loyal to things that were never meant to last. And this isn't just spiritual poetry, it's neuroscience. Studies show that emotional pain activates the same regions in the brain as physical pain. Your heartbreak, your grief, your disappointment, they are registered by your nervous system as real injuries. Ignoring them doesn't make them go away. It just buries them in your body, where they become tension, illness, anxiety. But when you face them directly, when you give them room to be seen and heard, something begins to shift. What once felt like an unbearable burden begins to reveal the blueprint for your resilience. People who have done the work of walking through pain don't come out of it perfect. They come out of it honest. Their eyes soften. Their hearts widen. They lose interest in pretending and gain interest in presence. They become less reactive, more aware. Less consumed by noise, more attuned to what really matters. That kind of presence can't be faked. It's forged. And it starts by treating pain not as an enemy, but as a teacher. Out of suffering have emerged the strongest souls, wrote Khalil Gibran. The most massive characters are seared with scars. You don't need to chase pain, but you do need to stop hiding from it, because hidden pain becomes limitation. Pain seen, acknowledged, honored, it becomes power. Not in the loud, performative way we often imagine, but in the quiet, anchored way that doesn't need to prove anything. The kind of power that simply is. The most courageous thing you can do in a world obsessed with comfort and distraction is to sit with your pain and listen, to ask it what it wants you to know, to stop trying to fix it right away and just allow it to speak. Sometimes what it says will surprise you. Sometimes it will break your heart. But slowly, it will also start to make you whole. And maybe that's the real secret no one teaches you. That becoming who you really are isn't about adding more. It's about revealing what's always been there, hidden beneath the noise, the fear, the protective layers. Pain peels those layers away, one experience at a time, one quiet night at a time, one brave choice at a time. You don't have to have all the answers yet. You don't have to make meaning out of it right away. But if you're feeling something deeply right now, grief, regret, confusion, loss, know this. You're not broken. You're being invited. And if you dare to lean in to really listen, you might just find that the part of you you've been searching for has been waiting all along, right there in the center of your pain. There comes a moment, often unannounced, when the pain becomes less of an intruder and more of a mirror. Not because it stops hurting, but because it begins to reflect back truths you were too distracted, too afraid, or too busy to see. You notice that what you're grieving isn't just what happened to you. You're grieving the life you told yourself you were supposed to live. The version of you that never got the chance to emerge because you were too busy surviving, pleasing, pretending, or staying silent. And this grief doesn't always arrive as tears or dramatic breakdowns. Sometimes it looks like numbness, exhaustion, irritation with everything and nothing. A dull ache you can't name that quietly asks, "What happened to me?" Here's the part they rarely tell you: this grief is sacred. It's not weakness. It's not failure. It's the beginning of truth. Because you cannot become who you're meant to be without first letting go of who you were taught to be. That unlearning process is brutal. You start seeing patterns, reactions you picked up as protection, beliefs you inherited without questioning, identities built around being needed instead of being known. And it hurts. It hurts because you realize how many decisions were made not out of choice but out of fear. How many "oh yes" answers were really quiet no's to yourself. How often you traded your authenticity for acceptance, your voice for validation, your peace for performance. But there's power in this realization, even if it doesn't feel like it right away. Because the moment you stop blaming the world, your parents, the timing, or fate, when you stop looking for someone to fix you and start asking, "What can I reclaim?" that's the moment you shift from victim to creator. That shift is everything. It doesn't erase the past, but it reframes the future. Pain, in that light, becomes less of an enemy and more of a raw material. Not something to be erased, but something to be forged into meaning. And forging is the right word, because this isn't passive reflection. This is heat, pressure, work. It's you sitting with old memories that make your hands shake and your chest tighten. It's you asking hard questions about why you tolerate things that drain you, why you run from love that sees you, why you're terrified of success and visibility even as you chase them. It's you facing the contradiction of craving change but fearing what you'll have to sacrifice to get there. These are not rhetorical questions. They are internal earthquakes, and they require your full attention. But through that attention, you begin to develop something stronger than resilience. You build clarity. You begin to distinguish between the voice of your wounds and the voice of your wisdom. At first, they sound the same. But in time, you learn to tell when you're speaking from protection and when you're speaking from purpose. And that in itself is freedom. Not the loud, glamorous kind. The quiet kind. The kind that helps you walk away from things that almost destroyed you, not with bitterness but with understanding. It's here that responsibility enters, not as punishment but as a form of liberation. Taking responsibility for your healing doesn't mean taking blame for what happened to you. It means taking ownership of what happens next. It means acknowledging that while you didn't choose your pain, you can choose how it shapes you. That distinction is the line between repeating the same cycles and breaking them for good. True healing is not an aesthetic. It's not a quote on a background of flowers. It's deeply uncomfortable. It often looks like distancing yourself from people who no longer recognize you. It means facing loneliness, not as a sentence but as a passage. It means redefining success, love, strength, and even peace on your own terms. The modern world rarely honors this process. We're encouraged to project progress, not live through it, to share breakthroughs without showing breakdowns, to look healed before we are. But pain has a different timeline. It doesn't care about optics. It cares about honesty. And when you finally stop rushing yourself, when you stop measuring your worth by how well you're doing and start honoring how deeply you're becoming, something changes. You stop trying to get back to who you were and start becoming someone you've never been before. There's a paradox here. The more pain breaks you, the more it reveals what's unbreakable. Your capacity to love again even after betrayal. Your ability to start over even with a tired heart. Your commitment to growth even when it feels thankless. That is not ordinary. That is alchemy. Taking pain and turning it into depth, discernment, and direction. That's spiritual maturity. That's what no one teaches you. Because no one else can, it has to be lived. As you walk this road, you'll start to notice something else. The fear you used to have around pain starts to dissolve, not because it stops being painful, but because it stops feeling pointless. You begin to understand that the ache in your chest isn't a dead end, it's a doorway. And on the other side of that doorway isn't a perfect version of you, it's a truer one. A version of you who doesn't just survive pain, but knows how to use it, how to shape it into perspective, how to ground others with it, how to lead with it, not by pretending to be unscarred, but by being unafraid to show your scars as proof that becoming is always possible.